In this video, I'm discussing how the concepts of sovereignty and love in the book The Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz apply to spiritual seekers as well as romantic lovers. Just how we can master love by learning how to find where it is in truth. We can find mastery in ourselves as spiritual seekers by learning to recognize the true origin of wisdom, love, and revelation. Someone will naturally, through their own line of personal inner inquiry, will often circle back to the exact same teachings that they've encountered again and again in their studies and their seeking, in their intellectual seeking, and and it's really interesting because it doesn't really click all the way until I circle back to it through my own line of thought, and then it's like a revelation. It's like a revelation, and then I feel all this excitement, and I experience it as this whole feeling and experience, and then when I go to explain this in words, to explain whatever my revelation is in words, I find myself often saying like the exact same things that people so often say, and then realizing that it's hard to make someone, you can't really make someone understand something by saying stuff to them. It's about the inner experience of discovering that for oneself. Someone could tell me, I have this whole thing about letting go. I'm going to be there's so many things that, there's so many ideas I have. I have this whole thing about letting go. I've discovered over the years many strategies and mindsets to apply to letting go that have worked for me amidst struggling with letting go and really, really hating being told to let go. So someone might tell someone to let go, and maybe that person's in a space where it's a really helpful reminder for them to let go, but a lot of the time I think it can just be really aggravating and irritating to have that come in, and to have that advice come in and to let go. And then I think I have memories of experiencing that, and then these memories of realizing through my own internal thinking, coming to a place where I feel amazing and I have this whole realization, and I go to express it and I'm saying I need to let this go. And so that is sovereignty. That is related to sovereignty, which is one of my values for my philosophy and for the community that I build around spiritual study, is that it's almost so I'm getting the idea now that right now an analogy is spiritual teachings are like tarot cards. You might pull some that are relevant to you, and you're looking at them, and you're looking at this card that has these archetypes. There's a cluster of meanings attached to it. There are traditional ways that people integrate it into storytelling, but the real meaning of the tarot card for the reader and for the recipient, the real meaning is an internal truth that the tarot card is pointing to. The tarot card is indicating. It's just a symbol. It's an external symbol for an internal truth, a spiritual experience and dynamic. And I think that spiritual teachings, like the phrases that people express and communicate. They're like tarot cards, and that they're external. They're external to our spirits. I feel this way for myself, at least. They're symbols. The words are symbols, and they're pointing to, they're holding space for representing an internal process. And what matters in our life is an internal process. If we get a tarot card that's like, let's say something nice, like a Two of Cups, and we open our hearts to a loving, as you would say, like a romance in heaven rather than hell. If we open our hearts to that and we experience that, we're not experiencing the actual Two of Cups card. Like the card isn't our experience. The card's referencing an archetype, which might be on a spiritual level, like the living archetype might be descending into our experience, but we're experiencing something through the flow of life. And the card's just pointing to that. And it's the same thing with spiritual teachings. And the sovereignty comes from acknowledging the inner experience of each individual. Like, spiritual teachings are meant to be tools and medicine to aid in the inner experience of an individual. And I mean, it's interesting, it's like a phenomena where when someone discovers a spiritual truth, they often get a really strong desire to share it. So I think people share these revelations so often because at some point it's quite possible that revelation came to them in their own life, and so they're sharing it because it's exciting, and it is also really, really helpful to learn from each other and to pick up what we need from each other, to share medicine. Yeah, to share medicine. And it's interesting that it can kind of take a dark side pretty quickly, where the sovereignty of the individual is overlooked. Essentially, someone could think that sharing words with someone means that they need to listen to them. But, like, you can't force someone to share your revelation by repeating the words that you learned from your revelation to this person. It's a revelation happens from the inside out within individuals. And so I think that as we are spiritual seekers in the world, a lot of, I don't know if I want to say a lot. I mean, if you group in major religion, yes, like many places will, many like traditions or schools that you're in or groups will discredit your sovereignty. I see it as they'll just bulldoze it over. They're like, why do you think that you're important? Like, why you're not enlightened? Like, get over yourself. Listen to the guru who knows this stuff, Like, if you're not embracing these revelations of the guru, then you just need to, like, devote yourself to the guru more and let go of who you are. You know, this sounds so harsh. It sounds so harsh. Whoops. I feel like, and it's just in life too, like with general advice, like people will tell you, they'll say a phrase at you and then look at you and expect you to embody that as if they can spoon feed you a revelation and force you to have that revelation right then and there because it seems to them like you should. And, you know, sometimes we're banging at the door, we're banging at the door, desperate for a revelation and we can't get it for some reason. Like, in our conscious mind, it's not happening, and that's a whole other interesting thing too. And I think that even like the analogy there, banging at the door. So in this book he talks about like seeking outside of yourself what you are desiring, banging at the door. Like, is it the door to our inner self that we're banging at for the revelation? That would be the most effective place to go. And I think by the time we're at the door to our inner self, it would probably be most effective to not bang on it. Like, because I think it's less about the violence. And like, I think that the universe is it's not like any sort of like societal aggression is bad spiritually. That's not it. Like, having that energy and like emotion, I don't think that that's the issue with that would be the issue. I think it's like banging on the door to your inner self indicates that it's a sign that you don't believe that you can open the door. It's showing that you feel desperate because you believe that the door's not opening for you. And I think that would be, you know, the thing there. So it's when we're able to be in our sovereignty, it's because we have the inner knowing that we can access the resources we need. That it means that we know that the things we need, and it's okay to need things, it's natural, the things we need, we can get them. We know that. We know, and it's not through like getting them from someone else. Like, it's we know the source of them. We know how to open our inner door. And it's this world, as he describes, like the dream of the world dream that we're in collectively. There's heaven and hell. A lot of people are in hell. I've been in hell a lot myself, and also in heaven. It's strange to jump between them, and that's a sign of having a polarized psyche, essentially. So like, rather than being neutral, like having a neutral energetic dynamic within my psyche, having it polarized as a result of like my you could say here, like duality of experience, like, especially because I'm so sensitive, so I'll really pick up on that intellectually and emotionally, and I'll have this like polarization. So, you know, you can swing from heaven to hell pretty dramatically. And actually it's been sometimes like, well, let's say that, anyway, I don't know. I don't actually know about that. I'm not gonna try to express that idea, but Okay, so he's saying a lot of the world is living in hell. You know, like even like I think that it's much. I'm I'm very very fortunate to have had the experience of swinging from heaven to hell than to just have been in hell and to not even know that there's a heaven. So if anyone here is doing that, just know that it's actually pretty lucky. Not even just that, like not even just that you know the heaven's there, but also you're learning how to traverse from hell to heaven. Going through that process again and again, you're building mastery in the iterations through that as they change each time. You're learning how to navigate the cosmos and like the different frequencies of consciousness, the different like vibrations of attunement to of like different emotional consciousness, and that's really powerful. And so it's actually like a privilege to be able to, you know, like, so if you're going through that, you can know that there's nothing to be ashamed of there. There's absolutely nothing to be ashamed of there. It is a privilege. It's hard. It's a hard privilege. But if you can let go of like the shame as you swing from heaven to hell and back and forth, you can really get conscious about being like, you know, this is I'm building mastery here. I'm going to approach this experience with the intention of building mastery inside myself so that I can gain power. And it doesn't this dynamic, for some reason the recording stops recording sometimes, but as this you can recognize that swinging back and forth, like, you know, is giving you an opportunity to gain mastery. And also you can recognize that this dynamic, like, this dynamic is not going to stay the same. It is a dynamic. It's a dynamic in that it contains dynamic parts, and it will also change and evolve too, because each time it happens, each time this like cycle happens, you're changing. And when you choose to be conscious, when you choose to be really conscious about this, in this he calls it like stalking. So it's like when you stalk like a panther, when you stalk like a panther, your own, as he calls it, inner parasite that's attuned to hell, as you stalk that like a panther, as you iterate through your life experience, then pretty rapidly, potentially, you can change these cycles that you're in. Because, you know, once you're experiencing something, once you master it, you're gonna move on to something new to master, which is pretty fun. And you can also, you know, there's an element of choice in what you engage with. Obviously it's not like we have choice. There's a lot of stuff we don't have choice about, basically. But so this book is talking about this for romantic relationships. Like, he doesn't use the word sovereignty, but he does talk a lot about sovereignty in kind of recognizing what you are responsible for and what you're not responsible for, and taking care of your own inner experience, and how you can like, if you have the flow of love inside yourself, and if you know how to heal your emotional body, then you're not dependent on others and for scraps of love. So you're not gonna play into abusive dynamics to get scraps of love and things like that. And I think this does actually connect to spiritual development, because we're sovereign, we're very intelligent beings. We all have in our consciousness the ability to have our own revelations, and it's crucial that we have community and support. We're communal beings, and when we recognize that we have access to all of the all of the wisdom inside of ourselves. When we can access all the wisdom within ourselves, and we can actually only access the wisdom from within ourselves. And so we can recognize our power in that and our sovereignty in that we don't need to play into abusive dynamics in order to get spiritual development from other people who are giving us scraps or who are just throwing tarot cards at us. If you play into my metaphor before, like, that would be like, I mean, this is just an analogy, but if you're like, I really need, you know, I'm trying to think of a good one. I really need, like, some balance in my life. And then someone just hurls a temperance card at your face. And then it just, like, falls on the ground and you stare at it. And you're like, what the heck? And then they get mad at you that you're not balanced already because they tried they tried so hard to help you and you didn't take it in and and they're like, why didn't you accept this? Like, why did you choose to stay unbalanced right now? And the thing is that it's like, it has to be an internal revelation. Like, just saying phrases at people, saying words at people isn't gonna cut it. It has to come from within. And so in this book, there's this one chapter. There's this one chapter that was brutal in, like, a beautiful way, but so it's called the chapter's The Man Who Didn't Believe in Love. I'm gonna try to summarize it. So this guy didn't believe in love, and he was very smart, and he went around and told everyone how, like, what people think is love is actually just like an addictive dynamic where there's someone who's kind of dosing out bits to someone who's more dependent on it than they are. Like, one person needs love more than the other person, so the person who doesn't need it as much, like, doses out love to the addict who's, like, attached to them because they really need it, and so the person gets, like, them to do whatever they want in order to, so the other person can get the love, if that makes sense. If that makes sense the way it just said that. And then he's like, he's going around telling everyone this, and then he in a park, he sees a woman sobbing on a bench, and he goes and asks her what's wrong, and she's like, no, love isn't real. And she describes the exact same thing as he has observed, and then he embraces her, and then they come to be very good friends, and they both, you know, are like, yeah, like, love isn't real, and they have, like, camaraderie in that, and they don't expect anything from each other, and they just enjoy each other, and they just, you know, they grow happier and happier together, and they realize, like, as they've grown happier together, they haven't played into that dynamic of, like, the unhealthy dynamic that's so often labeled as love in society, and then so and they both realize, like, I think this is true love. Is that possible? This feels like it might be actual love, but it's so different from what we've heard and from what we've observed. And then I'll just read this really short quote. The man's heart was so full with all the love he felt that one night a great miracle happened. He was looking at the stars, and he found the most beautiful one, and his love was so big that the star started coming down from the sky, and soon that star was in his hands. Then a second miracle happened, and his soul merged with that star. He was intensely happy, and he could hardly wait to go to the woman and put that star in her hands to prove his love to her. As soon as he put the star in her hands, she felt a moment of doubt. This love was overwhelming, and in that moment the star fell from her hands and broke into a million little pieces. Now there is an old man walking around the world swearing that love doesn't exist. And there is a beautiful old woman at home waiting for a man, shedding a tear for a paradise that once she had in her hands, but for in one moment of doubt she let it go. This is the story about the man who didn't believe in love. And then I'll read the beginning of the next the paragraph. Who made the mistake? Do you want to guess what went wrong? The mistake was on the man's part, thinking he could give the woman his happiness. Happiness never comes from outside of us. As soon as he made her responsible for his happiness, she broke the star because she could not be responsible for his happiness. Dang, you know? I mean, so it is really interesting. I didn't make this connection until I started rambling into this, this morning. But, you know, like, the dynamics of what we think love is. Like, the dynamics of what love, as you would say something like love in the hellish earth dream, right? That we've all been born into, you know. We've been born into this. Like, he says as kids, we couldn't have the choice to take this, like, programming in. This programming was forced into us. And now as grown-ups, we can choose to heal. And there's no judgment in this. There's no we're the only ones who assign good and bad to things. It makes sense that if we think that in romantic relationships, that in love and loving in family relationships and friendships, that's important to me. Like, loving friendships are very important to me. Like, we're kind of taught to think that we can give our happiness to someone and that we can make someone happy. And it's, you know, so we have these spiritual revelations. There's this whole beautiful process where someone will have spiritual revelation and feel amazing about it and want to share it, you know, and I do that a lot. And I'm not saying to not share it. You know, it's not about, I'm not saying to shut it down and not share it. No, like, I'm working on doing the opposite. It's just, you know, we can be, when we really learn about the dynamics of the ego and of community and of connection, then we can really start to gain mastery in how we share. And I think in a lot of spiritual teachings, a lot of spiritual teachings will assume a lot of things that are generally assumed in society, that, like, that you can give your revelation to someone, that you can, you know, that you can take that star, that you generated that star, you experienced that star through your love that you have generating in your heart. And then you think that you can hand it to someone and they drop it. I think that the real issue here isn't that I think that it's okay he handed it to her. I don't think that's where the hurt, I think that where the hurt came from was the intention and expectation he had in handing that star to her. Because if he handed it to her and she dropped it and he was like, you know, how are you feeling? Like, you don't have to feel bad about that. It's okay. Like, I gave it to you for you to do what you could with, instead of getting mad at her for breaking it, because it seems like he thought that that was his only star. Instead of, saying like, oh, I can just, don't worry about me. Like, I know how to get the stars. I know how to have the star. It's okay. I'm not going to run out of stars. You don't have to feel bad for breaking it. It's okay to like practice, because I think we can accept, like, I think when someone has stars inside themselves or knows how to accept them, they can. And if this makes sense. So it's not like the wanting to share that's a problem as much as getting upset with the person for not processing it in the way we expected them to, because we think that that was all we had, and we feel like their inner experience has to be a certain way in order for us to feel okay with the value of what we just shared with them and with what that means about us and with our inner experience. And that really actually very much does tie into a lot of spiritual advice, and spiritual advice is thrown around like all the time in daily life, even amongst people who do not identify as being spiritual at all. Like if anyone tells anyone to ever let go of anything, that's spiritual advice. It's, you know what I mean? So, this feels good. I feel good about this conversation, or this it's not a conversation at the camera. Yeah. Because I really want to be reaching people who maybe need a little bit of an encouragement, of validation around their sovereignty as spiritual learners and as spiritual beings, and intellectual sovereignty, and sovereignty in thinking, and sovereignty in ideas. Because I think a lot of, like, there's all this confusion about the ego, and there's all this confusion about following, and there's so many, I feel like, the teachings, the people who, like, the really enlightened people will teach that you have to find this within yourself, and then their followers will say, you don't have this enlightened person has this. Like, we don't act like we have this because we are subservient to this person because they're exalted. Like, they have their exalted nature, and they've taught us all these amazing things, like it's within us. Like, this is available within us, and that we're just as powerful as them, and that's so benevolent of them. And like, it's strange. I mean, I think that having an element of subservience in group in teachings for group dynamics is helpful to just get people to behave certain ways that are important for groups often to be able to keep functioning. Like, it's a lot easier to get a whole group of spiritual people who have followed this person when the person dies to be like, we're gonna keep bowing to this person, we're gonna like generally act like we don't actually know what we're talking about, so that like people don't just all have opinions and argue with each other, or like just fracture, you know what I mean? As it would appear to the person trying to keep the group together. It's a lot easier to have groups, to like run groups, when you tell everyone to be subservient and to like not listen to their egos. And it's a lot easier essentially to keep the teachings. So if like a group's trying to preserve the teachings of an enlightened person, if they're trying to preserve that and to keep sharing it, then they're gonna feel like they need to tell everyone new to like just, keep quiet. We're not here for you, we're here for this like dead person's beautiful teachings. But the thing is that person is gone. They can work with us energetically and psychically, but they're not like the teachings that are left are just apart from their presence, their spiritual presence that remains. Like their teachings are just words. They're just objects. They're just tarot cards that you can throw at people and hope that it like resonates with them. They're not actually the person. They're not like an enlightened person might teach certain things to someone, but it's a lot of the time like they might be difficult truths for someone to accept that are tailored to the person they're speaking with. And then that person is being bathed in like a mysterious, glorious, like healing presence of love concentrated into their consciousness. And so then it helps. Like that's, I think, essential to being able to like heal and to face hard truths is you need to be bathed in love in order to open up in ways that like would be even potentially dangerous for your energy body otherwise, or unhealthy. And that's gone. Like that's gone from the teachings that people are saving. Like they're just like they're just overlooking that. There's like it's so important. That's part of why like the personal sovereignty and spiritual studies are so important, because we need to be able to discern what is for us. And it's not like just avoiding everything that makes us uncomfortable. It's like different teachings are meant for people who are dealing with different things. They're meant for people who are dealing with different things. And overlooking that as an organization and then telling people that like their opinions aren't meant to be added into the I want to say lexicon of teachings, because it's just about preserving these like special teachings. And then having this element of being like, oh, I love you, like like I really want to, like I want to love you, we're meeting in love, and so I'm gonna give you my happiness, and if you break it, then I'm gonna be really like, I'm gonna blame you, like that sort. It's not like I mean, I think a lot of the time people have good intentions when they're doing this. People, it doesn't mean that they're not responsible for the hurt that they cause, but they have, it's not like people are, sometimes they are just wanting to be like evil people. Like that is a thing. But I think a lot of the time, like we just, we grew up with really confusing representations of love, and we grew up in a really pained environment. Like the world has a lot of pain in it. It's like the Earth dream, we are born innocent, we lose innocence, and we're wounded. I'm looking through the chapters, and then we're like navigating the like hell on earth. Like, is he saying in this like hell? Hell is here. It's not like you die and go to hell. Like we're living through these like oscillating emotion spectrums like right now. And a lot of people are attuned to hell. And it's not like they did something It's not like, oh, they're being punished. It's just that this is like an initiation. It's an initiation. We're here, as he describes Earth as a mental hospital, which is pretty funny. We're here to like gain mastery of this. We're here to, to gain mastery, and it's supposed to actually be fun. So it's not like, I think that there's, we're balancing out my appraisal of how a lot of spiritual teachings may, I mean, when I say a lot, that's a very vague qualifier, but some spiritual groups can trample over sovereignty, and it's violent. It's an intellectual violence, and it's not very good. It's not healthy. It's not helpful. It can have, like, people can still have beautiful effects within their spiritual development in these groups, and they can even maybe even get everything they need. It might be right for some people, but I just don't think it's not the healthiest thing, and for a lot of people it can be damaging, and they can have good effects while also feeling shut down and feeling shame. Like, if someone's feeling shame, if a group is making someone feel ashamed and like is actively feeding them thoughts and ideas that lead to generating more shame, it's not just like someone already has shame from their life that they're bringing in, but if they're like someone in these groups will probably stay in it more if they already have shame in their life that they're bringing into these groups, and these groups are like generating more shame, like the shadow side of the group. That's not healthy. That's not healthy. Even if someone like get a clear mind, and stuff, like it's just really, like, we deserve better than that. And so the thing is that we can actually go in. We can take what is good for us from those groups and leave and be like, yeah, I'm not going to buy into all of this. I'm not going to buy into all of this. You've got some really, really good teachings from this enlightened person. I'm going to take the ones that are relevant to me, because I know that this person was speaking to a lot of people when these teachings were recorded, and these people were all different, and that when this person was speaking to these people, they were doing so with love. And that helped those people a lot when they felt that love, and that really helped them. And so I'm gonna take these teachings that are codified now, that are kind of a little bit less alive. I'm gonna take them with a grain of salt. I'm gonna take the ones that help. I'm gonna take the ones that challenge me, but I'm also not gonna become a subservient player in your hierarchy, because that's not the goal that the enlightened teacher had. If they were actually enlightened, it's not their goal. It's not their goal. And it's really cool because we have access to so much information. I think I forgot to say this. Last night, I was reading this book, and I was like, towards the end, just speed reading it, having a blast. Like, there's some parts that are funny. Some parts are brutal, some parts are funny. And it's like, thinking about being playful. I know that I think people often think that, like, being an academic, like, or not like I don't like academia, but being like honestly, I probably do like academia a little bit, like, but not the system. Anyway, all this stuff about being like studious studying, that's no fun. That's not playing. It can be learning stuff, studying things, thinking. Those can be very playful. It's fun. That's fun. I'm really excited that I incarnated in a time where there's so much information there's not just information, there's so much quality teaching. So much quality teachings. I don't know how to phrase that perfectly. Available from really, really awakened people. That's just, you could just get. I got this at the library. There's like a lot of books there about this from all sorts of cultures. We don't have to stay in a monastery and just listen to the person who's running it. And that doesn't have to be only, we don't have to choose between that or just living in the forest communicating. I mean, it's lovely, but we, you know what I mean? Like communing directly with nature, like we have, or communicate, we don't have to choose between like communing directly with the source or just being at the monastery with the one person running it or whatever. Like we have access to a global system of ideas, of knowledge, of stories, and of wisdom, and of people. So we can communicate directly with the source, and we can also pull in our guidance, like our earthly guidance, from so many different sources, and it's really exciting. It's really, really exciting. So, we can maximize and play into that. Okay. The video stopped again, but we can maximize and play into this wealth of resources because it's actually really cool. And there are a lot of there are actually a lot of people around who are into this. It's just that it can be hard to find in real life sometimes. The internet's very helpful. We have access to that. So I'm hoping that we're gonna pull in some people for us to engage in our spiritual studies side by side with sovereignty and to support each other in that. I have this spiritual development studio that I'm starting right now with meditations throughout the week for right now it's set up to be a 20-minute meditation that's unguided and silent, where everyone just kind of comes in, everyone's already muted. We just meditate in whatever way we want to. Another thing that I'm going to be talking about or writing about combination is my thoughts on meditation and how it does not have to be the ways that is commonly taught. So like whatever someone needs to do to meditate, you can do it that way instead of going into a group where people say this is how we meditate and then feeling a little weird about meditating other ways. So that's the first 20 minutes, and then we just chat for 20 minutes after. And then I'm also hosting study halls that are just a 3-hour block for spiritual study and creative work that starts with meditating, talking a bit about what we're doing, what we're bringing in, getting inspiration from other people. You can come in with nothing to do. We'll give you ideas. We can give you ideas. And I think as it builds up, I'll give people options to have breakout rooms to discuss things that they really resonate with. If someone else is doing something they resonate with, so that the main group can have silent work. It's like a huge stretch a relatively long stretch of time for silent, really focused work. So you could meditate, you can read, you can bring in one of those books that you've been really wanting to study. You can read it. You can watch YouTube videos by people you really respect. I love doing that. You can do like a shamanic journeying experience. I have a friend who's a composer, and she works on composing music on her flute. And, you can draw. You can communicate with your ancestors. You could study tarot. You could study runes. You could, I know someone was talking about, like, runes and studying them within the context of social justice. I just want to add that. I guess runes have been appropriated a lot by, like, not great groups. So I just want to add that when I say runes. Could study plants and plant correspondences. So anyway, I say that looking at my plants right there, but that's my camera's gonna die. But that's getting started. So, and I'm also gonna be hosting free monthly webinars starting in January, where we're gonna be talking about more in depth for, like, what I've been discussing for the past month or so in a group, and we'll meditate. I'll kind of present a bit, and then we'll have a chance for people to talk and meet each other every month. So if you go to my website, you can read more. I do write-ups for my videos I make because I am a stronger writer than speaker, and it'll give you a chance to have some prompts and deeper reflections on the videos, and then from there you could sign up for my monthly invitations to my webinars, and then you can also check out my spiritual development studio, and I have free meditations on Thursdays if you want to dip your toes in the water and just check it out.